think a point that is very valid to note is the fact that we're to the point to where we can function without leaders. We always, in the past, have had a want to look towards leaders. Oftentimes that's because we didn't feel we had the answers ourselves. But when we realized we're all leaders, there is no one leader who's delegated a bunch of authority and thus responsibility and power and the probable misuse of that power. It just seems to be that when too much power becomes involved, we tend to get inflated. Our ego tends to get bigger. Things happen. So, we keep our global consciousness, ego, in check as well. But there are no leaders. There should never be a feeling of one being a leader or being an authority, any type of an authority. You shouldn't. We all are our own authorities. If you see something that needs to be done, do it. We tend to wait for a Congress or a consensus or a bureau, to okay something, and that should be for things that affect everybody in a deep way. But when it's something that you can do yourself, and you can show it, and it's in the greater whole, and it's subjective to the greater message, which is unity and the need for change, calling out those who are doing the wrong, then you can pretty much know you're all right to do it and let it flow in. Autonomous action is what this is about. Function like a group, but everybody's their own authority. That way there's no need for an outer external authority. Thus power doesn't collect anywhere and overgrow an ego, and thus you don't have any vacuums, which then cause violent outbursts or just pure negativity amongst the group. And that's any group. I'm assuming every group deals with that. Not to mention, some people have a natural want to lead because they're leaders. Simply because they're leaders. Which is a good reason for it. However, you can lead without claiming authority or control. And that's more so what we're against. Leading by example is a perfect way to do it. Leading in that of you're influential and people see that you're furthering the greater insight or are very involved. Your presence is very familiar and unharmful, in fact beneficial. And those are all leaders. It's leadership quality. I guess it's just maybe not so much that there's not a leader, because there's all leaders. We're all leaders. Every one of us should be leaders. That's what this is about. In fact, it's safe to say that this is about many things. If we first focus on the fact of unity, and that it's just wise for everybody to come together, because when people come together, there is power, and we are the machine itself. We make it up. It's worldwide, and if we make it up, we can stop it. We can do whatever it is that needs to be done to rearrange and fix this machine. Big fixing needs to come. We understand that. But unity is going to be where the power lies, once again. Therefore, cutting it off and excluding anyone or any group, anybody that cares enough to show love, compassion, a want for involvement, support, participation, is something that is very anti-productive at that point for the movement. Because everybody is a part of it. There are those who can camp, there are those who cannot. There are those who express themselves in certain ways. There are those who express themselves in other ways. And everybody has a way of doing so. But each influence and enhance that greater global mindset of transition, of metamorphosis right now. We know that former religious institutions and the banks, of course, those of corporate heads, we know those that are in that 1%, or maybe it's even a 2 or 3%, but it's a very small percentage of people. We know that they exist. We've called them out on it. We've got to begin to live the world that we want to live, be the change that you want to see in the world. We should live this entire community, the whole Occupy movement, if it's living inside itself, everywhere that it is, in Seattle and Los Angeles and Austin and Flint, Michigan and New York, if it can micromanage and become quite beautiful, can be a way, an example of showing the rest of the world how to live. A family, it's a progressive thing, of course, helping those who need to awaken to the fact of what's going on, and that it's unfair, and we need to do something about it, we need to make the change. But keeping it open enough that everybody can relate. And we all know we have different specifics of how we want to change it, and we can put into order that which seems the best, but let's get together for the moment. The moment right now is time to come together, and then we can figure out a change. Unification. And once again, there's no authority but your own. Question anything other than your own experience. Experiential knowledge is the best. I can't think of anything better to go by. Which your experience tells you, teaches you. I think that we need to remember that this movement is a movement that is a movement of the heart, number one. Because the greed that occurred to get us to this particular point was a movement in the heart as well. It was cancer of the heart. And those who are a part of these movements have a certain heart about them. And it is a change of heart that occurs. We have to remember and focus there, because if it just becomes another organization, just something marginalized, it's because hearts were not deeply convicted on fire, but pure and purified by the fire, which is light, which is awareness, which is truth, the best we can perceive it, whether subjective or objective. But awareness is that other factor in there, that other very, very big strength with our awareness. Unity and awareness go together, because it's the unity that will result from those who are asleep out in the tapestry of the world, who, once they awaken to the fact of what's going on, realize they're a part of this, and we have to be open-armed to each other as each other learns we're all a part of this change that is occurring. We're all a part of this evolutionary step. We're all a part of the human body having its alarm system go off in the form of protests. Once again, the pain signal. Something's wrong. Something's fucked.
So we are the pain signal for society.
To begin with, and then there's solutions, But at least for a unifying factor, because the more people that are involved, that really understand, the more this is something that is spread throughout the system. Therefore, it is a system. What's worse than a system that is totally versing something, or something that is a good match for it? Well, when that thing that is not only a good match for it is in throughout its entire system, so it dissolves from the inside. That's the key. You got to get the bitter root, so you get it from the inside. And that's the infection of awareness. Any way that you can affect somebody to become more aware. In doing so, you've helped their neurons rearrange in such a way that it at least gave them a biological evolution. But the point is for us all to be able to take that step together. We know that there are systems that have held us back. And I referred to them earlier. The religious institutions spiritually held us back. These banking and corporate institutions and governmental that hold us back as well. And what do they hold us back? They hold us back from evolving, from changing, from going to that next level in consciousness and being, to living in a better world that is much more, well, it's simply based on living in a better world, rather than feeding a greed that we all understand is a rotten cancer. Thus, once again, it comes down to the heart. It's a heart issue. It's a purity of heart that causes purity of movement, purity of conviction. And what is purity? Gold is purified by being tried through the fire over and over and over and over. And what is the fire? Power, energy, light. What is light? Awareness, truth. Truth, the best we can perceive it anyways. So if we purify ourselves, our egos, and not let them get out of hand, but purify them with truth by awareness, then we're all right. We can be a congealed, unified whole. But when egos start getting inflated, they take off, they run away, and that's when there are vacuums of authority, and then there are collections of authority and collections of power and vacuum power. But we know how to avoid that, and I think we're mature enough now to a point to where we can avoid many of the pitfalls that would otherwise take us down. Us. Who is us, really? Okay, that sounds very epistemological, but there's always a defining factor in who us is. Different people have very different defining factors about what the us means, just like they have very different defining factors about what the they means too. It's kind of a big deal. But when you stop seeing things with boundaries, you see that we are all connected. The fact is, we're all one. Science has proven that energy is what all things are made up out of. And if all things are energy, then all things are a form of light, pure energy. Well, we are that. Can't speak much more than that. I mean, science has came to a point of realizing quite a bit. But some of it becomes hard to put into words at that point. But if we can dissolve boundaries and allow unity, allow oneness, the mindset of oneness to permeate, that's true success, that's true oneness, man. That's true, that's the absolute, that's what's going to change it. We got to realize what the reality is, and the reality is a giant oneness. There is no boundaries. We create boundaries. We create them, and there is this world of separation that we're used to. The separatory understanding that we have, it's there for a reason. It helps us understand the world. Black and white, on and off, up and down, polarities. But truly, they do not exist at all. They just don't. They're not there. We create them. There's different gradual changes that simply take place as you see one go from the other to the other. And they are different, but really they are quite the same. And we do create the boundaries, at least mentally. Even if we wanted to start there, we create the boundaries for ourselves mentally all the time. I mean, any form of racism or prejudice against anybody for any reason at all, before hearing their story, before knowing what makes up them, is that. We can dissolve all our boundaries. We can dissolve into the oneness and understand that we are one energy, broke down into many little energies along the way. Then we can realize there is a true unity between us all. And what I do to you, I do to me. And what we all do to each other, we all reap. Well, let's come together, not create division. Let's not put down our separatory lines. We're over here, you're over there. No. We should all be here. And we should all be here now. Because now is the only time that exists. Tomorrow is based upon the thoughts of yesterday. And everything you remember from yesterday are merely thoughts in your head. Remembrance, Now is the only thing that exists. You get to tomorrow, and when you get there, it's no longer the future, it's now. You can only have now. But now is eternal, forever. There's one ultimate now. The only thing that is real is change. And change occurs through increments of what we call time. But if a perception of change occurs, or a change differs from one to another, perception differs so many different things in their understanding of the world. Our perception of time and change. Interesting. It's simply all we do perceive. We perceive changes. Time is totally relevant. Time can speed up or slow down because it's all based upon changes. That's how we increment time. All we perceive is changes. And there is one eternal now. If we can be at that now, be in that now, be fully there, in that now, there is peace. And we shouldn't hesitate to make this movement fun. Because fun drives our human soul. Fun makes it beautiful. And this should be beautiful because it's a movement. It's not one gesture. It's not two gestures. It's not even 15 gestures. It's gestures that stem out of a movement of the heart. As though the fruit of the tree is stemming from the very root. It's rooted in the ground, it's there. That's how it is. And that's how this is. So it should be communal, and it should be expressing itself, and there should be art and music involved. There should be any form of expression that does exist, and we should laugh, and we should play, because we should be models for happiness. We should be models for a human family. But we should also always be prepared. We should understand that when things are not fucking around, we have to be wise in how we approach them. Saying to be as wise as a serpent and as gentle as a dove does exist for a reason. I think I'm done for a moment.